Elohim. When it's used in the with singular verbs, that's a regular word for God. But when it's used in the plural, that you are gods, he's saying, let us know these things so that we may know that you are gods. And then he says, indeed, and here comes some sarcasm. Indeed, do good or do evil. Do something. And I hope you can just see that idol sitting there. And it can't change expression. It can't do anything. Do good. No? Okay, do evil. Why? Do something so that we may look about us and fear together. Do you hear the sarcasm? Can you imagine being a priest of one of these false idols and hear the stinging words of Isaiah as he brings these accusations against these gods? Then you have the conclusion. You are nothing. You're emptiness. You're void. And all of your works are likewise emptiness, nothingness. And then the last three words of our text. Toeva. An abomination is anyone who chooses you. Toeva. Strong term. An abomination in God's sight is anyone who chooses you. Now, we may look at this brief text and we may go, what does this have to do with time? Well, it should be straightforward. First, we do need to recognize that Isaiah here is using legal language. This is the exact language that we find outside of the Hebrew Scriptures, the cognate terms of law courts. Bring forth your case. Make an argument. Come into the law court, be ready, bring forth your case, Yahweh says. Bring forward your mighty arguments. And so he's saying to the people who would promote these gods, here's your chance. Let's hear the argument for Baal and the argument for the Ashtaroth. Now's your opportunity. And of course, there are many places in the world today where Christian missionaries are facing polytheistic systems, and they will have people that will bring forth their arguments. And so we get an insight here as to how we might handle that kind of argumentation, because the next verse gives us, and many people just sort of pass by this. They read through it, and they've already seen other sections starting in Isaiah chapter 40, where God says, tell us what the future is going to bring. There is the key challenge that God gives to the false gods. Tell us what is going to happen. And in fact, when you think about it, it's pretty obvious. When Jesus is resurrected, what's one of the first things that he does with his disciples? Luke chapter 24. He opens their minds to understand how from Moses all the way through the prophets, what were they doing? They were speaking about Christ. In other words, the reality of prophetic revelation. But think about it for a second. What has to be true for prophecy to even exist? God must be sovereign over time. There is a movement that gained a lot of emphasis about 20 years ago called open theism. And open theists believe that the only thing God knows about the future is that which he is going to do. He doesn't know what free creatures are going to do. And in fact, if God knew what free creatures were going to do, then they wouldn't truly be free. That remains an argument that they make to this day. And I have taught for many, many years that the only consistent Arminian is an open theist. if you confess that God has absolute, unchangeable, perfect knowledge of all future events in his creation, then you can't possibly believe in the Arminian construal of salvation. It simply doesn't work. Open theism is the only thing that makes sense in that context. And so God is saying to the false gods, here's your first challenge. Your first challenge is to tell us what's going to happen in the future. And when I look back at Isaiah 9:6, Isaiah 7:14, the passage about the branch of David in Jeremiah, you look at these texts and you see the fulfillment. You read the 22nd Psalm, and then you read the narrative of the crucifixion. You cannot avoid the fact that God is sovereign over time. He is working out his decree. I am thankful for prophecy. I'm not overly thankful for how some people turn it into a money-making scheme and having prophecy conferences and things like that.